The most surprising thing about AI taking your job isn't that it's happening, it's that, until very recently, it was completely legal for your employer to do it for that reason alone. A Chinese court just changed that. And the reasoning behind the ruling is stranger, and more important, than the headline suggests. In 2024, Chinese courts ruled that companies cannot terminate employment contracts simply because an AI system can perform the same tasks more cheaply. Under Chinese labor law, dismissal requires legitimate cause, poor performance, misconduct, or genuine structural change. "We bought a robot" doesn't qualify. The ruling didn't ban AI adoption. It banned using AI as a termination alibi. This isn't the first time courts have had to decide where technology ends and human dignity begins. When mechanized looms arrived in 19th century England, the Luddites smashed them not because they feared progress, but because progress was being used as a justification to pay them nothing at all. The technology was never the real threat. The legal framework around it was. The legal mechanics here are subtle. Most labor systems distinguish between termination for cause, you did something wrong, and termination for structural reasons, your role no longer exists. The Chinese ruling says AI-driven cost reduction doesn't automatically constitute a structural change. The job still exists. A machine is just doing it now. That is, legally, a different thing. Here's where it gets economically interesting. When a company replaces 10 accountants with one AI system, it rarely announces 10 eliminations. It announces a departmental restructuring. The ruling forces courts to look past the euphemism. If the output is identical and the only change is who or what is producing it, that restructuring might just be a very politely worded layoff. Corporate HR departments will now need to demonstrate that a role genuinely changed, not just that the quarterly budget meeting went badly. One imagines there will be some very creative job descriptions emerging in the near future. Senior Strategic Output Coordinator is already taken, but the field remains wide open. The ruling lands at a moment when most of the world has no equivalent protection. The United States operates largely on at-will employment, your employer needs no stated reason. The EU's AI Act focuses on transparency and risk, not job security. China just ran a legal experiment that other governments will study very carefully, whether or not they say so publicly. The deeper argument here isn't about robots versus workers. It's about whether efficiency is a legal value or just an economic one. Markets optimize for efficiency. Laws protect something else: stability, continuity, the idea that a signed contract means something when circumstances get inconvenient. China's courts just ruled that a cheaper machine is not, by itself, a reason. That sentence is going to travel. Strip away the legalese and here's what actually happened. A court drew a line between a machine being efficient and a worker being expendable, and ruled those are not the same thing. The job didn't disappear, it got cheaper. The contract didn't become void, it became inconvenient. And a ruling built on that distinction is now sitting in front of every HR department, every labor court, and every government watching quietly from the side. Whether that line holds, spreads, or gets quietly legislated away will tell us more about the next decade of work than any amount of corporate earnestness about responsible AI. What strikes us isn't the ruling, it's what had to happen for it to exist. Someone got fired because a machine was cheaper, and for a long time, they simply had no recourse. That was the baseline. The court case was the anomaly. We think a lot of what's being called disruption right now is really just that, the quiet normalization of something that hasn't been tested yet. Which leaves us with a question we don't have a clean answer to: if a cheaper machine is not a reason, what is? And more to the point, who actually gets to decide?